Welcome to Overtime Stories. If you're new here, take a moment to subscribe and join the journey. We're on the road to 1,000 subscribers, and every bit of support truly means a lot.
The moment Troy Aikman spoke up about Shedeur Sanders, the entire NFL conversation shifted overnight, and Cleveland felt the heat instantly. As sources claim, Aikman didn't jump into the debate lightly. This wasn't a hot take or a viral grab. It came after weeks of watching the Browns stumble through mixed messaging, questionable quarterback decisions, and what many insiders quietly labeled as disrespect toward a rookie who hadn't been allowed to fully compete. When a Hall of Fame quarterback with Aikman's resume speaks, people listen differently. He's seen bad organizations. He's seen good ones lose their way. And according to league insiders, what pushed him to finally speak was the growing gap between Shedeur's readiness and the Browns' refusal to acknowledge it publicly. Aikman reportedly zeroed in on how Cleveland framed Shedeur in media appearances, always developing, always waiting, even as other quarterbacks around the league with weaker performances were handed full control of offenses. That double standard didn't sit right. As sources say, Aikman watched the tape. He saw poise, timing, and command that didn't match the narrative coming out of Cleveland. When the Browns continued to downplay that while the offense struggled, the situation crossed from patience into mishandling. That's when Aikman went on air and spoke plainly. He didn't attack, he didn't shout, he questioned logic. And in the NFL, logic is dangerous when it exposes fear. Aikman's words hit because they echoed what fans and former players had been saying quietly for weeks. Shedeur wasn't asking for a crown, he was asking for a fair shot, and Cleveland wasn't giving it. That disconnect is what made Aikman's defense feel so powerful. It wasn't emotional, it was experienced. It came from someone who knows exactly what young quarterbacks need and what happens when organizations stall their growth for political reasons.
Sorry to interrupt, but hit that subscribe button real quick. It really helps the channel grow.
What really shook the Browns was how Aikman framed the situation as a warning, not just criticism. As sources claim, Aikman pointed out that mishandling a quarterback doesn't just affect one season. It stains reputations across the league. He spoke about how players talk, how agents listen, and how front offices earn labels that follow them for years. Cleveland, according to Aikman's on-air comments, was flirting with one of the worst labels possible, a place where opportunity depends on comfort, not performance. That's a red flag. Insiders say Aikman was especially critical of how the Browns kept shifting explanations week to week. One moment it was development, the next it was system fit, then it was patience. But the results on the field didn't justify the delay. As sources claim, Aikman highlighted that when a team is already losing, protecting hierarchy stops making sense. Losing while learning is one thing, losing while refusing to adjust is another. That distinction matters. The Browns' handling of Shedeur looked like the second. Aikman didn't accuse anyone of sabotage. He didn't need to. He let the facts do the work. Rookie quarterbacks around the league were being tested, supported, and trusted. Shedeur was being contained. That contrast was loud. According to insiders, Cleveland executives were caught off guard by how direct Aikman was. This wasn't a fringe analyst. This was a Super Bowl-winning quarterback questioning their football logic. Once that happened, the national narrative shifted. Media outlets that had stayed neutral suddenly leaned in. Clips of Aikman's comments spread fast. Players reacted privately, some publicly. The locker room felt the ripple. When a legend speaks for a rookie, it validates what players already see on the practice field. And validation changes dynamics fast. Inside the Browns' locker room, insiders say Aikman's comments landed like confirmation, not surprise. According to sources close to the team, players already respected Shedeur's preparation and demeanor. Quarterbacks earn trust before they earn starts. Shedeur had done the work. That's why Aikman's defense resonated internally. It wasn't hype, it was recognition. Players understand politics, but they also understand production. When someone like Aikman says a quarterback deserves better handling, it reinforces what teammates feel but won't always say publicly. As sources claim, the coaching staff felt the pressure immediately. Questions got sharper, answers got shorter. The Browns' messaging tightened, which only fueled speculation. Aikman's involvement raised the stakes. This was no longer a local Cleveland debate. It was a league-wide conversation about how organizations treat emerging talent. Analysts began revisiting film, breaking down snaps, and pointing out moments where Shedeur's skill set could have unlocked parts of the offense that stayed dormant. That analysis made the Browns' caution look outdated. Aikman emphasized that quarterbacks grow through responsibility, not shelter. That line stuck. It challenged the Browns' entire approach. Insiders say ownership noticed the shift. When Hall of Famers speak, sponsors listen. Fans listen. Other teams listen. The Browns suddenly found themselves defending philosophy instead of performance. That's never a winning position. Aikman didn't demand change. He didn't need to. He simply laid out the cost of inaction. And that cost sounded expensive. Lost trust, damaged reputation, wasted momentum. In the NFL, momentum is everything. The real power of Aikman's stance is how it reframed Shedeur Sanders from a future option into a present responsibility. As sources claim, once a Hall of Famer publicly acknowledges a quarterback's readiness, the excuses shrink. Development timelines get questioned. System rigidity gets exposed. The Browns' cautious approach suddenly looked like hesitation masquerading as patience. Aikman reportedly highlighted that organizations often regret waiting too long, more than moving too fast. That insight carries weight because it's backed by decades of league history. Quarterbacks who show command early either get empowered or pushed aside. Rarely is there a comfortable middle ground. Cleveland seemed stuck in that middle. Insiders say Aikman's comments forced national media to stop tiptoeing. Words like mishandled and misused entered mainstream coverage. That matters. Language shapes perception. Perception shapes pressure. The Browns couldn't hide behind internal evaluations anymore. External voices were now validating Shedeur's case. Fans felt emboldened. Chants grew louder. Social media pressure intensified. The situation became bigger than any one game. It became about fairness and opportunity. Aikman's defense didn't crown Shedeur a savior. It demanded accountability. And accountability scares organizations that prefer control. That's why Cleveland's response mattered so much. Silence felt loud. Generic statements felt weak. Insiders say the Browns underestimated how much influence Aikman still carries. This wasn't nostalgia. This was authority. And authority shifted the balance of the conversation permanently. As the fallout continued, insiders say the Browns faced a dilemma they couldn't spin away. According to league chatter, Aikman's comments made it impossible to treat Shedeur's situation as purely internal anymore. Other teams started paying attention. Executives talk, scouts talk. They remember how franchises handle pressure. The Browns' reluctance to adjust began to look like stubbornness rather than strategy. Aikman warned that when organizations ignore obvious momentum, they risk losing credibility with players league-wide. That's a long-term problem. Free agents notice, quarterbacks notice, coaches notice. Cleveland's handling of Shedeur became a case study in how not to manage rising popularity. Insiders claim the front office now faces competing pressures. Maintain control or embrace change. Aikman's involvement tilted that balance. It gave Shedeur institutional backing without him saying a word. That's rare. It also made any future success elsewhere feel like an indictment waiting to happen. The Browns could still course correct, but the window narrowed fast. Aikman's defense wasn't loud because of tone. It was loud because of timing. It arrived when frustration peaked. That combination is dangerous. The league doesn't forget moments like this. They define seasons. Sometimes they define franchises. By standing up for Shedeur Sanders, Troy Aikman didn't just defend a rookie. He exposed the Browns' fear of their own future. As sources claim, the organization now stands at a crossroads created by its own hesitation. The longer Shedeur waits, the louder Aikman's words echo. This situation stopped being about depth charts and started being about trust. Trust in talent, trust in process, trust in courage. Aikman's message was simple but sharp. When a quarterback earns belief, withholding opportunity costs more than it saves. The Browns can still change the story, but they can't erase what's already been said. The NFL heard it. Fans heard it. Players heard it. When a Hall of Famer speaks up, silence stops working. Cleveland now has to choose whether to adapt or double down. Either way, this moment will be remembered. Not as noise, but as a turning point. As the dust settles from Troy Aikman's comments, insiders say the Browns are now dealing with consequences that go far beyond media criticism or fan outrage. According to league sources, internal confidence in Cleveland's quarterback plan has started to crack at multiple levels. Coaches can explain schemes, and executives can point to contracts, but players respond to belief. When belief looks selective, trust erodes. Aikman's defense of Shedeur Sanders acted like a spotlight, illuminating inconsistencies the Browns hoped would stay in the shadows. The refusal to let Shedeur compete openly, even as the offense stalled, now feels less like patience and more like avoidance. Insiders claim the front office underestimated how quickly national voices could flip the narrative. Once Aikman spoke, the Browns were no longer controlling the story controlled them. Analysts began openly asking whether Cleveland was protecting egos instead of results. That's a brutal question for any organization. Veteran players reportedly felt conflicted. Loyalty to the system clashed with frustration over stagnation. Shedeur's calm demeanor only sharpened the contrast. He didn't complain. He didn't posture. He prepared. That professionalism earned quiet respect. According to sources, some players viewed Aikman's comments as overdue validation. Not hype, but acknowledgement. That validation matters in locker rooms where silence often hides agreement. The Browns now face a cultural challenge. Either they realign around competition and transparency, or they risk being labeled as a place where opportunity depends on politics. That label sticks. It affects draft choices. It affects free agency. It affects how young players approach the organization. Aikman didn't invent this risk. He named it. And once named, it can't be ignored. Cleveland's response in the coming weeks will signal whether they heard the warning or dismissed it. The NFL rarely gives teams unlimited chances to course correct. Windows close, narratives harden. Right now, the Browns are still in motion. But momentum isn't on their side. It's leaning toward the quarterback they won't unleash. What makes this chapter so important is that it's no longer just about Shedeur Sanders. It's about how the Browns want to be viewed across the league going forward. As sources claim, organizations earn reputations not through press releases, but through moments like this. Moments where fear and opportunity collide. Troy Aikman's involvement elevated the stakes because it reframed the situation as a test of leadership. Do the Browns trust their evaluations enough to act? Or do they hide behind caution until the season slips away completely? The answer will define how this era is remembered. Shedeur's popularity isn't manufactured. It's built on preparation, confidence, and performance potential. Fans see it. Players feel it. Analysts recognize it. The Browns can either harness that energy or fight it. Fighting it hasn't worked so far. Losses pile up. Pressure grows. Silence gets louder. Aikman's defense didn't promise success, it demanded fairness. That's a low bar, yet Cleveland struggles to clear it publicly. Insiders believe this story is far from over. Every week Shedeur stays sidelined, the comparison grows sharper. Every misstep by the offense adds fuel. The Browns wanted to avoid a quarterback controversy. Instead, they created one defined by credibility. When Hall of Famers speak, history listens. Years from now, this moment will be replayed not as noise, but as a crossroads. The Browns can still choose courage over comfort, or they can let fear define them. The league already knows which choice wins in the long run. And so do the fans watching every snap, waiting for opportunity to finally meet talent. Like the video, subscribe for more deep dives and stay locked in as this story continues to reshape how the league views Shedeur Sanders and the Cleveland Browns.